Now, Lieberman is a very interesting person, because the whole thing happened because of, if you think about Lieberman, which is incredible, but when you think about it, what is so interesting is this. It's a paradox. What's the paradox, Lieberman is an anti-Haredi. Okay. He has done now things to the Haredim, which is absolutely terrible. He has embarrassed them, he's badmouthed them, he slandered them, you name it. And not only that, he's created a tremendous amount of division among the Jewish people. He's increased enormously the rage or the anger and the hatred that secular now have for religious Jews. I mean, what he did is really unforgivable, which is, however God will do that, I know why he did it, because he's losing his constituency, because there are basically no more Russians, they're all Israelis. So he's got to have a new cause. So the new cause, of course, is to attract the secular against the Haredim. Of course, that's not an excuse. That's what he did. But I find it interesting. Had he backed Netanyahu, right? Let's say in April, and he's the one who said, there was 60 seats that Netanyahu had. All he needed was one. That itself is a miracle. That he was just one away from a coalition, and he didn't have it, so he needed Lieberman. And Lieberman, of course, said no. Now, what Lieberman should have done, and that shows that he's an absolute fool, he should have said, okay, because in being part of the government, he could have got the Haredim to back off. In some capacity, you see. Instead, he said no, because, I don't want the Haredim. He wouldn't even negotiate, basically. Now, what's interesting is, as a result of that, Netanyahu could not form a government, you see. And it happened the second time again. Netanyahu could not form a government, you see. So, by doing that, he destroyed the Erev Rav's ability to survive. He killed the Erev Rav. So you'd think, wait a minute, you're the one that's part of the Erev Rav. On the contrary, you should have joined with Netanyahu, right? You would have perpetuated the Erev Rav, right? And then you could do what you do, whatever you want to do, basically, to the Haredim. Instead, he is the very tool that God used to destroy the Erev Rav. Because once he wouldn't join with Netanyahu, right? He lost, he can't put a coalition, first round. Second round, he can't put a coalition. Yeah, but wait a minute. You are destroying the Erev Rav. You see? And now, and therefore, what he did is he showed Netanyahu to be a failed politician. That's it. So it comes out that God used Lieberman to destroy the Erev Rav, when he himself had every reason to what? To preserve the Erev Rav, because he's part of the Erev Rav. I find that to be absolutely poetic, if you think about that, because that's what it says. Ish ba'a lo yeda, wild men don't know, uksil lo yovne zois, the fool does not understand. What that means is that God uses the very enemies of Judaism and so on, that they themselves are responsible for the destruction of the enemies of Judaism. They don't know. He uses them. So Lieberman is a tool while the Erev Rav collapsed. When it would have been in his interest, as I said, right, to join Netanyahu, to do what he can with the Haredim, and then Netanyahu would have been back in business. And if he would have been back in business as a new prime minister, then it's questionable if Mandelblit would have indicted him. Because when Netanyahu, closed the government for new elections in November of 2018, one of the reasons why he did that is so that he should be voted in again as prime minister, and therefore he would have a much greater position and stance to oppose Mandelblit. What a wrong reckoning, obviously, because that's what started the whole downfall of Netanyahu, you see. So therefore, had Lieberman supported him, then Mandelblit would have had a much more difficult time of indicting him, because that was his original reason for what? For collapsing the whole government. Is that if he's truly the prime minister, which he thought he would be in April, right, then Mandelblit is going to have a much more difficult time, because now he's chosen by the Israeli public to be the prime minister, you see? So he'll be a much stronger stance. See, they voted for me. It's amazing when you think about that. So what all Lieberman did was succeeded in weakening Netanyahu and destroying him. You see? And now what did he do? So he left the government open for somebody else to come in, right? Gideon Saar, that's now going to work with the Haredim. See, because Gideon Saar is a Shomer Shabbos. He's going to work it. So what did Lieberman accomplish? And I'll tell you something, I wouldn't be surprised. God will give success to Saar, and he's going to have a coalition. And it's very possible that he will have a coalition without Lieberman. Wouldn't that be incredible? What a poetic justice. You see? Because they already have 55 seats. So guess what? Everybody knows that when Saar's going to put together a coalition, what's going to happen? Right? Everybody's going to want to join, because this is it. You see? And there are people from the blue and white that are going to join with Saar, because they want to be in the government and not in the opposition. Because in the opposition, you're basically dead. There's nothing there except sitting there. You see, everybody wants power. So wouldn't it be incredibly ironic if Saar can put a coalition together? All he needs is another 6 seats, right? Wouldn't it be incredibly unbelievable, you know? And because there are parts of blue and white that are really right. There's a party called Telem, and Telem is, I think, Yalon. And Moshe Yalon is really right. The reason why he's with blue and white, which is left, is because he hates Netanyahu. So what they may do is just drop blue and white and join with Saar. So then he would have 60. I think they have 5 seats. So he'll get somebody else by offering him a ministership and so on, you know. But then you don't need Lieberman. So here's what's going to happen if that happens: is Lieberman will be out of the coalition. Lieberman will be in the opposition, and his party, with the Russians and all that, will be so incensed by the fact that he's not even in the government that his whole party will disband. Wouldn't that be incredible poetic justice? It's called he outsmarted, he outfoxed himself, you know. But the amazing thing is that God used the very person who hated the Haredim, right, to destroy the Erev Rav that is basically anti-Jewish, or, you know, against Judaism. I find that to be a very interesting possibility. Really fascinating, so on.